We're here at Mobile World Congress 2019 in Barcelona, and I'm joined by Claes Herlitz, who's the Vice President and Head of Connected Vehicles at Ericsson. Claes, thanks for joining me.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to meet all our customers.
This is an amazing event. Now, I'd like to kick off with a bit of a summary on what your team within the Connected Vehicles part of Ericsson have on the floor here in the pavilion, and what people can expect if they come and visit your space.
Yeah, so this year we are really honored to cooperate with Einride and Schenker and Telia in launching the highly automated transport system. We are using IoT, 5G, and a semi-autonomous truck to do that. And it's not only a showcase, it's in fact in commercial operation already.
Right, wow, well we'll delve into that a bit more. I was watching people over there yesterday, and a whole range of amazing smiley faces coming off, and very pleasantly surprised faces. I think people were probably impressed and surprised by just how advanced it was and how far down the track you'd had actually developed this technology, and we'll delve into that in a minute. Now I understand you've actually launched this whole new platform at the show. Firstly, what can you tell us about the platform as a whole? Maybe just for folk who are watching and have seen the launch, heard about it, but would like to see a bit more detail about what's under the hood, if you'll pardon the pun. Right. What can you tell us about what was included in the launch and what you've got to show?
So the starting point for us at Ericsson when we come to the highly automated transport system is always the connected vehicle cloud.
Right.
The connected vehicle cloud is a platform play where our customers can develop their unique services upon. But what we're doing now is we're combining the connected vehicle cloud with our global connectivity management.
Okay.
Enabling our customers, the transport operators and the mobile network operators to be always connected in the transport system. And we are showcasing 5G as a major enabler to reach the capacity, if you will, of the transport system required.
Well, I mean, there's a number of things in that, isn't there? I mean, a lot of what you're building depends, I assume, on really low latency, high-speed connectivity, really high volumes of data. You've got lots of imagery, I imagine, sort of, high-density vision coming backwards and forwards. You've got machine learning between a centralized data center and your cloud, as well as at the edge of the network. Maybe just unbundle some of the core components. You mentioned a specific cloud platform focused on the autonomous and intelligent connected vehicle space. Give us a little insight into what's in that.
Yeah, so the connected vehicle cloud is designed to handle a large amount of data to start with. And then it's also supposed to handle very, very low latency, so time criticality is key here, right? And we've found out that we can, for certain use cases, do that based on 4G.
Okay.
But when we increase the density of a fleet, like for instance a truck transport solution.
With hundreds of trucks.
Yeah, with hundreds of trucks. We can't really do it without 5G.
No.
We can't reach the low latency, we can't reach the high resolution of the video screens and stuff like that. And the haptic feeling of driving a huge truck from remote is crucial. Otherwise, you will not be able to do it. Right.
Well, that's an interesting point you raised, but I do like, there was an analogy that came to mind where it's like, in a country road, you can get lots of vehicles going in a straight line together and they've got to play well, but when you have to move high volume, city level traffic, you've got lots of lanes with lots of cars, and I guess 5G effectively is that lots of lanes with lots of cars at high speed, hopefully not bumping into each other. You mentioned the haptic feedback, right? And I think this is a big thing that I noticed that people were getting surprised by, that when you're gaming and there is no feedback, you're playing the computer game, the thing on the screen moves, you bump into things. But when you're driving something like a truck or a connected vehicle, that haptic feedback is really part of our human DNA, isn't it? Our response time, our reaction. That must have been an interesting design element that came into that changed this whole space from sort of gaming driving versus proper driving vehicle experience.
Absolutely, you're so right. There are many different things. It comes back to low latency, of course, and the haptic sensitivity is one piece, but you also want to have immediate feedback in a video screen, right? So that's also very important. And then of course, when you increase the density of the of the transport system, many trucks and stuff like that, it gets very, very complex.
I can only imagine. Well, actually, that kind of brings me to my next question, and that is that when you get to the speed and the scale of the data you've got to move, the scale of the number of connections, when we think about, let's say, a truck, and it's got all the thousands of moving parts. Each moving part's got a sensor on it, whether it's heat or temperature, speed, whatever, weight. The feedback that goes into steering it, the video, the complexity is just mind-boggling. It's universe scale sort of numbers. Give us some insight into kind of what sort of challenges you're dealing with in just designing systems and implementing and deploying these systems that are even capable of that scale of complexity.
Yeah, so the first issue you're facing is you need to have global coverage.
Right.
At least coverage in the spots where you are operating in highly automated.
You don't want a call drop out when you're going into a corner, right?
And then the next issue you're facing is quality of service management.
Right.
Some services doesn't require that much of quality of service, to be honest. It can be feeded back in a minute or two, right? But the haptic sense and the immediate feedback in video screens and emergency braking and stuff like that is really time critical.
Indeed.
Yeah.
Well, you mentioned semi-autonomous, though, right? Just on that point, sorry to interrupt you. But I guess with semi-autonomous, I mean, there's some intelligence in the vehicle for avoidance of objects and so forth. But you want to, particularly with a truck, you still want a human sort of directing in the right space, don't you?
So you're coming to a very important topic here. We don't want to give the perception that we are trying to remote control every truck.
No.
We are in fact operating a semi-autonomous transport system. So 90%, hopefully 99% of the time, the truck will go autonomous, based on current sensor technologies and stuff like that. Right. But whenever an incident occurs, could be a traffic jam, it could be anything that disables the current sensor technologies for resolving the traffic situation. You get an immediate warning, and you drive through, bypass the hurdle, and you go off to autonomous drive again. So, in fact, we're not only talking about remote operating a truck, we're talking about an autonomous fleet management system.
Wow.
So, in fact, you can actually replace 100 drivers with only one, if you do it in the right way. But it needs to be always connected, because an incident can happen anywhere, at any time, right?
Yeah. And the thing that comes to mind is a lot of people worry about robots replacing their jobs, but it seems to me that we're actually making people's lives better, because you can run larger scale fleets, you can deliver more things to people who need them, whether it's food or whatever the case may be.
Correct.
And these drivers aren't sitting there all day and night just like human drones going down the road. That part's being done by a system that can be semi-autonomous, and these people are actually in a comfortable, safe space. They're not on the road, so they're not going to die from a car accident. They're in a comfortable space. They can do shifts. It seems to me that's actually a better way to work, and a more comfortable space, and then you can shift over. You need a bathroom break. You can't do that at 100 kilometers an hour on a train, on a road train, right?
Yeah.
So I guess this is something that we see in a number of places where people worry about, I'm going to lose my job to a smart device. It seems to me it's exactly the opposite. The people are going to get a better quality of life, lower risk of, particularly with big vehicles, mining, trucks, etc. I've had clients in Australia where they have a big board on the front of their reception, and there's a number of days since big incident. And they always want a zero number of days since loss of life. This to me seems that unless you trip over and get a bloody nose going to and from the bathroom, the kitchen and coffee, you're not going to die from a car accident because it's a vehicle out on the road that's semi-autonomous. That must be a game changer.
It's absolutely a game changer, and if you think about it, in the business-to-business concept, it's actually a very, very good business case.
Absolutely.
You can actually bring, well, in average, 50% out of the cost in the transport system and replace it with some other cost, potentially much lower. Today, for the transport operators, it's really hard to recruit drivers.
Yes,
in
I can imagine.
On the streets, it's really hard for them to operate in a good quality fashion. And so in fact, we're not only creating a more sustainable system, we are creating a more efficient system.
No, I love it. And there's a big cost in that. I mean, when in Australia, we've got very big mining operations, and they go through this multi-year process of bringing people on as juniors. They train them, educate them, certify them. At the very end, if they happen to drop out of the system, that's a massive investment in that resource that then moved on. Or if there's an accident, which would be awful. This is a very exciting thing. Now, at the end of this whole thing, you've got the complexity in managing the platform for that. Tell us what the consumer end of things looks like. Well, you know, you've built this platform, you've got the clouds designed for autonomous and semi-autonomous vehicles and the connected vehicles. What's it like at the device end and the truck end? What are people doing, and what are the use cases they're thinking about how they now use that platform you designed for these connected vehicles? You've talked about trucks, but there must be other use cases that just leap out of the world at you saying,
absolutely.
What if?
Absolutely. I think, thanks for bringing me on to this topic. I think it's very interesting. I think it's partly true to say that innovation has not been accelerating as much as we would have hoped. The transport system is divided into what I call stovepipe solutions.
Yep.
And it's really hard for innovation to be developed on these kinds of stovepipe solutions.
Sure.
So what we are bringing to the market is a platform play where we can invite not only our customers, but the customers' customers and the customers' partners to develop their unique end-to-end services, right? But it's all based on connectivity, easy to consume, and it's all based on a platform where you can rely on a good quality of service and coverage management.
It seems to me like, I come from a software development background, and the things that I count on are like, good storage, good compute, good networking, firewalls, routers, switches. I just want to focus on the code to build a CRM system or a business intelligence system. It seems to me you've actually built that sort of high scale, highly skilled, highly resilient and redundant platform that now people can add value to without having to invest in all of that infrastructure. You've got the network, you've got the capacity, the poles and wires, everything. You've built that platform. It's sort of out of a box in many ways, and now that innovation can be done with a smaller investment, shorter time to market, and a quicker return on investment on that, and I guess and more agile development and design. Is that the experience that people are having?
That's absolutely the experience they're having. We can walk over to the Einride booth and have a testimony about that. I think they are absolutely intrigued and compelled by what we're doing together now, and they've absolutely embraced the platform play. They do understand that the future of connected services is not in stovepipes, it's in platform, right?
That's an exciting future. Well, I can imagine what's going to come out of the woodwork. We've seen some really interesting disruptions in various parts of the world and different industries. I think automotive is just prime for disruption in so many different ways, but in a good way, right? It's not a case where a disruptor is going to kill the industry and take a player out. They're going to add a lot more value. I actually had a tour of the Schuster studio a couple of years ago, early last year actually, and there was a vehicle in there from, I think it was Volvo, and the Ericsson team were working with them to do fulfillment into the back of the vehicle. And so you could kind of lock the car, but give them access to the remote access to the back piece with the cage, deliver your shopping there. So I can imagine now with these connected vehicles, you get all these amazing use cases that someone goes, I don't even need to actually worry about the vehicle or the network, I can add value to that ecosystem. So I imagine that just opens in a whole new world of exciting things. And I see yesterday you announced, I think it's now 12, is it, or 13 named customers, 40 or so NDA'd. I can imagine that's going to become tens of thousands soon with these potential ways to disrupt whole new exciting parts of that ecosystem.
Absolutely. The ecosystem is a very good word because it really tells you about how the many different industries can come together and develop new services, because you can't do it on your own anymore. You can't do it. You need automotive. You need connectivity. You need supply chain. You need all those places to come together. But then you can't just bring them together in one single meeting and hope for the best. You need to bring some kind of an ecosystem for them to develop their business upon, to capitalize on, and to develop the services, right?
Well, I think Ericsson's doing that in droves, and if there's one theme I've taken away from Mobile World Congress 2019 this year, is this whole end-to-end closed-loop story, that from the ideation, the discussion of I've got an idea, through to design, development, implementation, testing, retesting, deployment essentially distributed. From your learnings with what you've already done, not just this demo, but you mentioned you've got some things already in the field. Where should people be thinking about starting the conversation about where to invest, where to put their resources, where to drive innovation? I'd love to get some advice on that, because you've already done this. You've driven one, you've built it out, you've got one on the floor as a demo. Where does this conversation start? And I guess, they should probably start it with you as early as possible.
Let me start with I had was at a customer dinner yesterday, and I had a fantastic conversation with one of the car makers of the world, and we started to explore where are the business cases for connected services, where should we invest, and we started a discussion around the customer journey. How does your customer perceive not the connected service customer journey, but the customer journey with your specific car?
That would have been a great conversation.
Yeah. Do you know? Do you know about the perception?
Yeah.
And then she said, well, we are starting to learn the customer journey, and we are starting to learn all the improvements we can do. But with connected services, we can actually not only provide connected services, but we can start to understand how the customer perceives our core product, the car, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And that's the journey they are on right now.
That's exciting.
And that's a very, very different business case, and a very, very different innovation, if you will, driven out of connectivity. And I absolutely adore that way forward. It's a brand new way of looking at connected services.
Yeah.
It's not open and lock the door anymore. It's about understanding how a customer is perceiving the car as a consumer over a lifetime of, let's say, 3 to 5 years.
Well, cars have often been around the world, a major investment, right? For a lot of people, their house is their biggest investment. Then they have a car, and then there are other things like education, whatever. To me now, I see this as not an investment in a thing that's a sunk cost that just gets you from point A to B. It's actually a value platform, because we spend so much of our lives in these cars, and they're going to be shareable. We're now looking at putting more value into these cars, that we're entertained and educated while we're going there. It knows our food types, it takes us to a place getting special. So I think there's a whole interesting conversation we could talk about, an hour for that one. One more quick question on the innovation piece. Digital twins. It seems to me an obvious fit that you could essentially design digital twins into this, so that as the truck's going on the road, you can be monitoring with IoT and see if the truck's behaving, not just from staying on the road safely and getting the haptic feedback when a human being's got to help it get through a traffic jam, but you can actually get better performance from the device itself, in that if it needs maintenance or a bearing's wearing out, the digital twin can tell you that bearing number 5 on wheel 1 on the right-hand corner is replacing. So that should bring down the operational cost and the maintenance cost as well.
Absolutely. This is, right now, maybe the strongest business case for connected services in the entire business. So what I call proactive maintenance, based on AI, is absolutely the strongest. Who wants to recall 1 million cars just because of the fact that you haven't understood what's going on with the brake system? Maybe you want to update it, over the air. And of course, the starting point of that is understanding what's happening out there, and being able to improve the product, but also update the product. These vehicles, regardless of whether it's a car or a truck or a bus, they are becoming what I call software defined. And it's really based on what we call today. And you would argue that if it wasn't for electrification, the highly automated or automation of the vehicle wouldn't happen as fast. So they are all interlinked, and at the heart of this is the software-defined vehicle. Mind you, combustion engines and oil filters might not be a best sell in the next 10 years, right?
Well, let's see. But the innovation works on any platform, I guess, is the key thing. Now, final question for you. Shows like Mobile World Congress here, 2019 in Barcelona, lots of magic happens to get the demos working, and things are put together for a few days to work. And people often look at it and go, well, it's a demo, it's good, but you've already put this out in the field. What comes after the show for you and your group around the whole connected vehicles part of Ericsson? What are the next big shifts? I mean, you must have some awareness and education and engagement conversations going. What are the big moving parts from here on in, if you'll pardon the pun, that you now need to focus on around innovation, driving awareness, getting education into the market? Where do you go from here after the show with Mobile World Congress?
Well, the starting point for us right now is 5G and IoT. And we know that 5G and about the world.
I look forward to that.
Yeah. So we're on a very, very challenging roadmap.
Yep.
We're on a very, very fantastic journey, I would say. And together with our customers, we do believe that we can create a much more sustainable world, a much more sustainable transport system, and a more efficient one.
Wow. Well, that's the consummate close. Well, look, congratulations on an amazing event. Really excited to see where you and your team around the whole connected automotive piece and connected vehicles and Ericsson go in the next 12 to 18 months and beyond. Look forward to getting into one myself. Great to see you. Thanks for catching up with me on camera.
Thank you.
I'll look forward to seeing what's on your floor and go and have a haptic feedback drive of your vehicle.
You're more than welcome.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Cheers.